What is going on, everyone? Anthony here, and welcome back to another video here on the channel discussing some Dead Rising news. A lot of people have been discussing this the past week because it was from Jez Corden over at Windows Central, making a tweet to someone who was discussing, different stuff going on with Xbox and PlayStation and all that stuff. And he said, if you're a Dead Rising fan, there might be something on the horizon for you. So that's kind of all we have from this bit of news, but I kind of wanted to open the discussion up a little bit about Dead Rising and why it should come back. I really enjoyed the first Dead Rising back in the summer of 2006, and I remember playing the demo. I remember hearing about it, and this was when the zombies kind of migrated over to Dead Rising, where Resident Evil kind of went away from that, and obviously they were just going off of the success of 4, and they were going to continue the Parasite, Las Plagas, the Maginis from the Ouroboros in Resident Evil 5. Resident Evil was kind of taking a different turn with its enemies, and the zombies had nowhere to go, so they made Dead Rising. But one thing I always liked about this cover right here, or this case where it says, this game was not developed, approved, or licensed by the owners or creators of George A. Romero's Dawn of the Dead. But it's like, come on, that's kind of where you got it from, but you just kind of made it a little bit more wacky and silly. Now, the original Dawn of the Dead, of course, has wacky and silly elements to it, but it's still a really good classic horror film in many ways. But this kind of amped it up a little bit. You had your characters that were, kind of like villains, and then you had the people you can trust. You had the survivor system to save people. You had Frank West, the, photographer who's covered wars, and he is a classic character that people will always remember. So something with Dead Rising coming back, and you're bringing a new reboot, so to speak, maybe not a sequel to 4 like they wanted to, but this will just be Dead Rising in the RE engine with just co-op from the start, online multiplayer from, all the extra bonuses that they brought into all the other Dead Rising titles. And they can really amp this up, and seeing everything in the RE engine and seeing the destruction, the weapons you can build, the stuff you can craft, there is like so much potential for Dead Rising to come back now, because we haven't seen a Dead Rising on the RE engine, and that's how they're treating all their games now, being on this engine that, does look very well, it performs very well. And I think this is the time to bring it back if it's been 7 years. I never played Dead Rising 4, but I always heard mixed things or negative things about it. And I know it was handed off to different developers, the Vancouver team, and they kind of took out the timer. And that made a lot of fans pissed. And I remember hearing that, and I was like, man, that kind of sucks, because that's what made the original game fun, was that, you had a timer, you had to get to your cases in a certain amount of time, and you had to be watching your clock at all times and making sure you're not getting too, held up in the side missions, but you're getting through efficiently. Something like that is what I liked. It wasn't just about killing as many zombies as you could. I mean, that was part of it, but it wasn't like you could just do that and not... I mean, if you did that, you would fail all the cases. You would just burn out the time if you were running out of the, the cases failed. I mean, that happened so many times my first playthrough. I didn't understand it, and then when you replay it, you kind of get it. And with Dead Rising 2, which I picked up in, 2010 when it came out, this adding the co-op elements, the different, the Chuck story with his daughter was really cool. The fact that you have, that co-op aspect is like a whole different game changer, because it's so much fun to play with friends on this game. And of course, you can build awesome weapons and just level up. So they added more to this. I love the Fortune City, being the kind of like the Vegas in this world. And it's kind of cool that they switched it up, but they didn't really, they didn't really just rehash the same thing, keep it in a mall. They kind of opened it up a little bit. And I had a lot of fun with this game. And again, adding co-op in a new Dead Rising reboot would be cool, because then it gives the player to either play by themselves or they can play with another character. Maybe they can have two characters right from the start. You can have Frank West, or you can have, it doesn't have to be Chuck, but it could be someone else with Frank that ends up coming along for the ride, or you can play single player. Just a thought, I know I like the idea of, the first game kind of being a single player experience, and that's what the other games were for, to kind of expand on that co-op. But a lot of people, like myself, didn't mind Chuck. I didn't mind the character, and I didn't even mind Case Zero that came out before, which was like a prequel with how he got into the city. And but fans wanted Frank, and they answered with Off the Record, and this was a very fun expansion. I guess you would call it a spin-off expansion or whatever you want to call it, but basically it combines Frank and Chuck with the co-op feature, but you're basically seeing it from Frank's perspective. It's kind of like a what if, and I don't know, I think something like this is it's kind of adding another layer to the story that a lot of people liked. And he comes back with his photography, and I like that it's called Off the Record because it just kind of fits what this game was trying to do. And again, more of Dead Rising 2, and I did enjoy it. I think I streamed it for the first time here on the channel a few years ago with Dave, and we did all the Dead Risings, and I will definitely be revisiting these shortly, because these are always fun to play, especially if there's going to be a new one, being announced. Now, Dead Rising 3, this guy, I have not played or streamed, so something that is going to be content on the channel later on. But I've heard okay things about this. I know it takes place in LA, or it's, kind of like another co-op experience, but I've only ever seen the demo and have not seen much on the story. And then with Dead Rising 4, I know Frank comes back, and they tried to, spoof, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation and all, it was all this Christmas stuff. It was all Christmas themed, but they took out the timer. A lot of fans were pissed off about it, and I never gave it a chance because I didn't even have an Xbox at that time. But of course, if I'm going to stream 3, I might as well go and check out 4 eventually. But maybe that's a little bit down the road. We'll see. But if Dead Rising comes back, I just kind of wanted to explain my history with the, series of Dead Rising, because I definitely would love to see it come back now, where we do have, this RE engine that would look great with all the gore and the dismemberment of the zombies and the different weapons and the carnage that can, happen. We do have the potential to, push the engine further and have even more zombies on screen and more stuff happening. I really hope Capcom has a showcase this summer, just like they did last year, where they showcased a little stuff for Resident Evil and their other titles, but maybe they can squeeze in Dead Rising a little bit, or maybe have a surprise announcement. It's always cool to bring something back. It doesn't seem like 7 years, but that's, a pretty long time, and I understand with it underperforming, and, that was a long time ago now, so hopefully if they kind of regain that interest a little bit, because they got that Resident Evil crowd so invested. I'm invested too, because that's why I got into Dead Rising, you know what I mean? I really just wanted to play something on the next generation of consoles at the time. This is back in 2006, and I really appreciated what they did. It wasn't like the story was exactly the same as Dawn of the Dead, but I just thought it's funny that they had it in a mall. They took that concept from Dawn of the Dead and just kind of ran with it and made it kind of have a sense of humor. Some serious stuff happens in the other games, and even in this game, in the first one that I'm talking about, like, there's a lot of serious stuff that does kind of happen, but it's definitely played up with some of the humor, and that's the one thing I really enjoyed about Dead Rising, is that it didn't take itself too seriously. So that's what fans really enjoyed. So I would love to see everything kind of get wrapped up in an ultimate Dead Rising bundle, where we have co-op, we have these expanded cases. Keep the cases, keep the timer, give us the weapon upgrades that we can have, and make it even more bloody, make it even more expansive. There is a lot more they could do now than what they could do years ago on the other consoles. So we can really push this, and hopefully this gets announced and something does happen with Dead Rising, because I definitely miss Dead Rising. When you think of Capcom stuff that should come back, that's one that I'm like, damn, I kind of got, it kind of got done dirty a little bit with the fourth game. I think it was just handed to the wrong people, and I think if they give it to the right Capcom team now, their mindset now might be a little bit more different with how they can approach it and make it a smashing game like before, where they really had something unique where, okay, the zombies are away from Resident Evil, but now it's in this, like, playground environment where you can just mess around, kill zombies in different ways. They added the survivor features. They had, all that stuff that made it, a little bit more unique and stand out. But of course, with Dead Rising, I think this would be a, reboot, I would say. I don't think this would be a Dead Rising, 5 or 6 or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, 5 never actually came out, but you get what I'm saying. Like, I don't think it's going to be in that numerical order. I think because it kind of went to that stop, they'll probably just say, all right, it's just called Dead Rising, and now here's Frank back, and maybe a couple other characters that you can cycle in out for co-op. Make the AI a lot better with the survivors, because that was the one thing that obviously sucked with the first game, was trying to bring along the survivors. Come on, all that stuff can be, fixed, and it's all things that modern consoles will help with, the environments, making it a lot larger in 4K on the RE engine. So I'm excited. I'm excited to see what can come out of this. Obviously, it's nothing official yet. This is just, hearsay, rumors, but I kind of wanted this video to go beyond that and just kind of open that discussion. Are you a fan of Dead Rising like I am? Can you not wait to see it, come back in this, new RE engine way? And maybe it can be co-op. It can be a fun experience to play with friends. I don't know. Let me know down below in the comments. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you're new, and stay tuned on Let's Talk Resident Evil.